Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. All right, so we're diving into effective PowerPoint presentations today.
Sounds good.
And you shared some excerpts from Death by PowerPoint by Cherie Kerr.
Yeah.
Which seems very appropriate because who wants to sit through another boring PowerPoint presentation?
No way.
So let's see what Cherie Kerr has to say about avoiding that.
Yeah, Cherie Kerr is great. She's not just an author, she's also a comedian and public speaking expert, so she definitely knows how to keep an audience engaged.
Right, and she starts the book with this kind of funny story about a motivational speaker named Mr. Summers who actually puts his whole audience to sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Which is ironic for a motivational speaker.
Yeah, definitely.
Ironic.
But Kerr's point is that most people aren't trying to be boring.
Right.
It's just that they kind of fall into these common traps, like putting way too much text on the slides or talking in a monotone.
Death by bullet point.
Exactly.
So how do we avoid putting our audience to sleep?
Well, Kerr provides a bunch of tips.
Okay.
And she calls it CPR for your PowerPoint.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a great analogy.
So what's the first step in resuscitating our presentations?
A hook.
The hook. Okay.
Yeah, you gotta grab the audience's attention right away or you've lost them.
Because like today's audiences, they're so used to being able to just skip ahead.
Right.
If something's not interesting, they're gone.
Exactly.
That's why I thought that example she gave about this speaker who opened with a slide of a dinosaur versus a gazelle was so interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Like, who wouldn't want to see where that's going?
Right. It's playing on that natural curiosity we all have.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's a lot more interesting than just a title slide with, quarterly report on it.
Okay, so strong hook. Check.
Yeah.
What's next?
Keeping it simple.
Keep it simple. Okay.
Yeah, clarity is key.
Mm-hmm.
The audience should be able to get what you're saying without having to decipher these complicated explanations.
Right, because as a learner myself, I know if I get lost in a presentation, I'm just immediately overwhelmed.
Exactly. And that happens all the time when speakers try to cram too much information onto each slide.
Oh, yeah.
It's like that example Kerr gives about the guy presenting on the Palm Pilot.
Oh, yeah.
He was so excited about all the technical specs, he just totally overloaded his audience.
It's like you need a PhD in Palm Pilot to understand what he's talking about.
Right.
Okay, so keep it simple. Give the audience what they need to know.
Exactly like that story Kerr tells about the black forest cake recipe.
Oh, right.
The presenter went off on all these tangents about the history of chocolate and where the recipe came from.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, interesting, but not really what people were there for.
Not helpful for learning how to actually make the cake.
Exactly.
All right, so strong hook, clear content. What about the way the slides actually look?
Yeah, that's visual appeal.
Visual appeal.
And Kerr has some good advice there.
Okay.
One thing she says is don't use too many pictures or videos.
Really?
Yeah, because it's easy to go overboard with that, but it can actually be really distracting for the audience.
Yeah.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, so it's about quality over quantity.
Oh.
You want those visuals to actually enhance your message, not overpower it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And there's also the legal side of things, too.
Oh, right. Copyright.
Yeah, copyright. You can't just use any image you find online.
Right.
Kerr actually recommends using stock photos or clip art just to avoid any legal headaches.
Good advice. Okay, so we've got the opening, we've got clear content, and we've got visuals that are both effective and legal.
Right.
What's next?
Storytelling.
Storytelling, okay.
Yeah, it's not just about presenting facts and figures. You have to connect with the audience on an emotional level.
Right.
Like that example with the presenter who was talking about data collection devices.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of starting with all the technical details, Kerr suggested he start with a picture of an elderly person being helped by a nurse.
Oh, wow.
And that one image completely changed the focus of the presentation.
Right.
It suddenly became about the human impact of these devices.
So powerful.
And the audience was instantly invested. Yeah, because they could see how it relates to real people.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're telling stories, we're connecting with the audience. What about the actual audio and visuals, like the way we deliver the presentation?
Yeah. You want to make sure your audio and visuals work together.
In harmony.
Yeah, like you wouldn't want to watch a movie where the sound and the picture were out of sync.
Ugh, no.
It's the same with the presentation. You want everything to flow smoothly.
Okay, so it's not just about what's on the slides. It's also about how we present them.
Exactly.
And that brings us to the next part of Kerr's PowerPoint CPR guide.
Delivery.
Delivery, bringing your presentation to life.
That's where the magic happens.
All right, let's talk about that.
It's all about remembering you are the presentation, not the PowerPoint slides.
Okay.
The slides are just there to support you.
They're like a visual aid.
Exactly, not the main event.
Right.
Kerr compares it to going to a Bruce Springsteen concert.
Okay.
Like, you wouldn't want to go to a Springsteen show and just stare at the band while he stood off to the side.
You go for Springsteen.
Right, exactly.
The slides should be there to support you, not steal the show.
And how you deliver the presentation is super important.
Yeah, energy is a big one, right?
Huge. Your energy as the presenter can really make or break the whole thing.
It's contagious. Like, if you're excited about your topic,
Exactly.
the audience is going to be excited too.
And as a learner, think about it.
Yeah.
Would you rather listen to someone who's clearly passionate about what they're talking about?
Definitely not if they seem bored by their own material.
Right.
So Kerr talks about being entertaining too.
Oh, yeah, even when you're presenting on a serious topic.
Like, how do you make a presentation about nozzles interesting?
Well, she gives this great example of a speaker who did just that.
Really?
Made a presentation on nozzles absolutely riveting.
Nozzles?
Nozzles, if you can make nozzles interesting, you can make anything interesting.
That's amazing.
So how do we inject that entertainment factor into our presentations?
Yeah. What are some tips?
Well, varying your vocal delivery is a big one.
Oh.
Using different moods, even incorporating humor when appropriate.
Right, because we don't want it to feel like an audio textbook.
Exactly. No one wants to feel like they're back in school.
So what about memorization? Like, should you have every word memorized?
That's actually a common misconception.
Right.
Kerr actually thinks it's good to not have every single word memorized.
Really?
Yeah, you should know your material, obviously.
Right.
But being too rigid can actually make your delivery worse.
Interesting.
You want to be able to respond to the audience.
Okay.
Riff a little, be in the moment.
So it's like finding that balance between preparation and improvisation.
Exactly.
I like that.
She calls it the square within the square technique.
Okay.
It helps you stay organized and on track while still allowing for some flexibility.
And I bet those unexpected moments can actually make the presentation more memorable.
Oh, absolutely. And Kerr also talks about how to handle those moments gracefully.
Yeah, because things happen.
Things happen, technical glitches, surprise questions from the audience.
You never know.
Being able to adapt on the fly shows that you're confident and in control.
Right. It's almost like those unexpected moments are a chance to connect with the audience on a more human level.
Exactly. And speaking of keeping things flowing,
yeah,
let's talk about those dead air moments.
Awkward pauses.
Yeah, they can really kill the momentum of a presentation.
It's like hitting the brakes in the middle of a smooth car ride.
Exactly. You want to avoid that. So smooth transitions are key.
Okay.
Knowing how to move from one point to the next seamlessly. And of course, rehearsal is essential.
Practice.
Right, not just the content, but the delivery too.
So record yourself present to a test audience.
Exactly. Anything to help you feel more comfortable and polished.
Okay, so we've talked about starting strong, keeping things clear and engaging.
Right.
What about wrapping things up?
Kerr is all about ending strong.
Okay.
Leaving the audience with something to think about.
Like that feeling you get after watching a great movie.
Exactly. You walk out satisfied, but still kind of pondering what you just saw.
You want to leave them wanting more.
And that's where her idea of taking heroic measures comes in.
Heroic measures.
Yeah. It's not enough to just avoid death by PowerPoint. You want to go beyond that.
Okay, I like where this is going.
It's about taking risks, pushing boundaries, being bold in your choices.
No more cookie-cutter presentations.
Right, exactly. Kerr wants you to think like those cavemen she talks about.
Cavemen.
Yeah, experimenting and trying new things, pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Just like those early humans discovering new ways of doing things.
Exactly, and making progress, evolving.
So how do we apply this concept of heroic measures to our presentations?
Well, it starts with avoiding those cookie-cutter presentations.
Okay.
It's so easy to just default to the same old templates and formats, but that's a recipe for disaster.
So find your own voice, your own unique way of presenting.
And be true to yourself.
Okay.
It's also about being really audience-centric.
What does that mean?
Ask yourself, what would make this presentation interesting and valuable for them?
So understand who you're talking to, their needs, what will resonate with them.
Exactly. And sometimes that means stepping outside your comfort zone, trying something new. Maybe even being a little unconventional.
Got it.
And here's something I think you'll find especially useful as a learner.
Okay.
Kerr actually gives some great tips for reviving a presentation that's already on life support.
So there's hope for even the most lifeless presentations.
Yeah, absolutely. She calls it bringing it back from the grave.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. She outlines a process for identifying the weak spots in your presentation.
Okay.
And replacing them with stronger, more engaging content.
So it's like a post-mortem for your presentation.
Exactly. Figure out what's dead weight and cut it.
Be ruthless.
Exactly. She encourages you to be ruthless, cut anything that isn't essential,
Okay.
and focus on the elements that will truly resonate with your audience.
Okay, I'm ready to get my scalpel out.
Okay.
So does she give any examples?
She does. She gives some really interesting case studies showing how even seemingly hopeless presentations can be transformed.
Okay, like what?
Well, for instance, she talks about this presentation on surface warfare platforms.
Surface warfare platforms, that sounds pretty dry.
It was incredibly dry and text-heavy.
Yeah.
But Kerr helped the presenter break it down into smaller, more digestible chunks, use more visual,
Okay.
and create a more dynamic and engaging flow.
So it's about that balance between giving people the information they need
Right.
and keeping them entertained.
Exactly. You don't want to sacrifice substance for style,
Right.
but you also don't want to bore people to death.
And she gives another example about a presentation on planning.
Oh, yeah. Planning. Talk about a topic that can easily send people running for the doors.
I've been to those meetings. I've seen the glazed over eyes.
But in this case, Kerr helped the presenter ground the presentation in real-world examples,
Okay.
using relatable stories and visuals to show the benefits of planning.
So bringing those abstract ideas down to earth
Exactly, making them real for people.
and connecting with the audience on an emotional level.
Because we're humans, not robots.
We learn and remember better when we're emotionally invested.
And one of the most effective ways to do that is through storytelling.
Okay.
Kerr believes that every presentation should have a narrative arc.
A beginning, a middle, and an end.
Exactly. That pulls the audience in and keeps them engaged.
So think of your presentation as a story.
With characters, conflicts, and resolutions.
Okay, so use humor suspense drama to keep the audience on the edge of their seats.
Exactly. And she gives some specific tips on how to do that.
Like what?
Well, she suggests using visual metaphors to explain complicated concepts,
Okay.
incorporating personal anecdotes to create a connection, and even adding sound effects or music.
Wow, so it's like you're directing a movie.
And just like in a movie, authenticity is key.
People can spot a fake.
Exactly. They want to see the real you, the person behind the presentation.
Let your personality shine through.
Because that's how you create genuine connections.
And when you're being yourself, it shows that you're invested in what you're talking about.
And when you're invested, your audience is more likely to be invested too.
That makes sense.
That's what makes a great presentation. The ability to connect with your audience, share your ideas in a way that's informative and engaging, and leave them feeling inspired.
And Kerr believes that anyone can achieve that.
It really does. It doesn't matter if you think you're not a natural-born speaker.
Okay.
It's a skill that you can learn and improve with practice.
It's like anything else, the more you do it, the better you get.
Exactly. And Kerr provides a roadmap for developing those skills,
Okay.
helping you identify your strengths, overcome your weaknesses, and become a more confident and compelling presenter.
And she does it with a great sense of humor, too.
Oh, yeah. She gets that presenting can be intimidating,
Right.
but she also knows it can be a really rewarding experience.
She's like that encouraging friend who pushes you to try new things
Exactly.
and reminds you that you can do it.
So what are some of the key takeaways for someone who really wants to take their presentations to that next level?
Yeah. What's the big aha moment?
I think the biggest takeaway is that a PowerPoint presentation doesn't have to be a death sentence.
Okay.
It can actually be a powerful tool for communication and connection.
Right.
It's about finding your voice being authentic and remembering that the slides are there to support you, not the other way around.
And being willing to experiment, to take some risks, to try those heroic measures that Kerr talks about?
Exactly, because sometimes the most unexpected choices can lead to the most memorable presentations.
Wow, so we've covered so much.
Yeah, it's been really interesting.
You know, from how to rescue a dying presentation to taking those heroic measures to really make it stand out.
It's been great to explore all of this with you, especially seeing how you connect these concepts back to your own experience as a learner.
Yeah, I think that's a key takeaway, right?
Absolutely.
It's not just about passively absorbing information. It's about actively participating in the learning process.
And Kerr's book really highlights that.
It's not just about PowerPoint. It's about communication and connection.
Right, which is important no matter what you do.
Yeah, whether you're presenting to a boardroom or leading a team, training these principles apply.
And you don't have to be a natural-born speaker to be effective.
Right, it's about preparation, authenticity, and effort.
And having the courage to try new things.
Yeah, break away from those tired old formulas and really make those presentations your own.
You've already taken a big step by diving into this material and really thinking about how to improve your presentations.
So what's the next step?
That's a great question. What's that one thing you can take away from this deep dive and apply to your next presentation?
That's a good question. As a learner, I really thrive on those aha moments. And honestly, what's sticking with me is that idea of heroic measures.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's given me permission to be bolder, to take more risks, to really think outside the box.
I love that, and I have no doubt you'll do amazing things.
Mm.
What unexpected element could you bring to your next presentation to make it truly memorable?
So many possibilities. It's exciting.
A surprising visual, a personal story, a touch of humor.
The cool thing is there's no right or wrong answer. It's about finding what works for you, what authentically reflects your style and your message.
Exactly, and remember, you are more than capable of creating a presentation that is not only informative, but also engaging and even inspiring.
I think the key is to not be afraid to experiment, to learn from our mistakes, and to keep pushing ourselves to be better communicators.
Absolutely. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become. You'll find your own unique voice and discover what works best for you and your audience.
I'm feeling inspired.
And that's what it's all about, right? Finding that spark, that passion that makes you want to connect with others and share your ideas with the world.
So to everyone listening, death by PowerPoint is not inevitable. You have the power to transform your presentations, to captivate your audiences, and to make a real impact.
Go forth and conquer the world of presentations, one engaging slide at a time.
See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.